This is an important day. I've made a big decision. I'm entering the race for President of the United States of America. The field of Republicans out there is so messed up, I figured it makes you miss me, doesn't it? Yeah. And that's saying a lot.
In light of what's going on in the country right now, you might think that that's not a bad idea. Some people would certainly agree with it. The president that we have right now, Barack Obama, determined to make the people of America and the world believe that he has a rock-solid, can't-miss, won't fail, and don't you dare ask me about anything else planned to defeat ISIS. The same preface to every press conference on the subject for what seems like eons. He tried driving off that bridge yet again earlier today, and while there's a good part of that nation and world convinced he hasn't said anything true about the fight since it started, we have lots of juicy new fodder when it comes to truth and the current POTUS candidates. So let us unleash the political animal. The former communications director for Republican Senator Tom Coburn, now the editor-in-chief at OpportunityLives.com, John Hart, and also former spokesman for President George W. Bush, author of The War on Millennials, senior project manager for Hathaway Strategies, Pete Seat. Gentlemen, before we begin, Pete, just very briefly, do you think maybe the president might get involved if they asked him to come back by any chance?
I don't think so, but Will Ferrell is a very good George W. Bush impression.
Will Ferrell, compared to what some of the options we have this season, might not be a bad idea. Okay, we'll get to that in a moment. Let me ask you both. Pete, I'll stay with you on this one. The president held a press conference today. He says we're hitting ISIL harder than ever. It was another one of those great press conferences. It was a rah-rah. It was almost like a locker room speech. But come on, this is kind of wasting our time, isn't it, Pete?
I feel like our commander-in-chief is, let's say, slightly delusional in what we're doing to fight ISIS. I just got back from 10 days in India, where certainly terrorism is a top-of-mind issue on the part of members of parliament and others who are grappling with their own issues at the border there, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and certainly the threat from ISIS or ISIL, whatever President Obama prefers to call it. But we don't have a strategy. We don't have a plan. President Obama
Let me stop you there, Pete. Hang on one sec, all right? Let's just say that the president does have a plan. Let's just, for giggles and grins here, that he's got a plan and he is implementing it and it's working right now. So, John, let me come to you. Let's just say that that's possible here, all right? Anything's possible. But still, don't we want to see action? Don't we want to see things other than press conferences basically saying the same thing over and over and over again?
Well, of course. And, you know, what's remarkable about the strategy or lack thereof from President Obama is look back at what President Clinton did against Slobodan Milosevic in Kosovo. You had 10 times the amount of bombing occur during those targets than you have during the campaign against ISIS. And these were numbers that were put together from the Council on Foreign Relations. So what the world needs to see is political will, and they haven't seen that from this administration. And that has emboldened ISIS. It's encouraged more people to join their cause. And what we have to have is maybe it would be nice to go back to G.W. Bush and have some real strong leadership.
Careful, I got this on tape. I swear, we got this on tape now, so if anything happens, John, people are going to go back and say,
context.
you called it. Okay, look, I got to move on here. Let's hit something else here. New York Times, a political fact check. Headline, all politicians lie, some lie more than others. They showed that Donald Trump, they fact-checked more than 70 of his statements and rated fully 3/4 of them, mostly false or pants on fire. John, here's the issue. The Monmouth poll that came out today shows Donald Trump is widening his lead. Why is it that no matter what they say about Trump, no matter how many facts they check, that he continues to be the overwhelming choice?
Well, I would challenge that assumption. I don't think that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee. And I think that, the polls that matter are the ones in the early states. So Iowa, for example, Ted Cruz is already eclipsing Donald Trump in Iowa. And if Trump does not win Iowa, New Hampshire, I don't think that he's going to sustain much of a campaign. And look, what really sustains Trump is that he has to be the center of attention and he has to be perceived as the front runner. So whenever those two things start to change, I would suspect that Trump's momentum is going to dissipate pretty quickly.
So, Pete, do you join John in that? Are you not worried at all? You think that it eventually will fade no matter what?
I think eventually Trump fades. I would fact check the New York Times. I don't think all politicians lie, but there's no doubt that Donald Trump has a loose affiliation with the facts and with the truth. But it certainly, to this point, has helped him and enabled him to stay atop the polls. But it's going to fade eventually, hopefully.
I know we got that on tape. I'm writing down the date right here. All politicians do not lie. Pete Seat actually said that out loud. All right, couple of things real quick. Bo Bergdahl is going to undergo finally a court-martial. Many people have been calling this from the very first day. Pete, do you think it's the proper thing to do?
I certainly think it's the proper thing, and it again raises this issue and calls into question President Obama's decision-making and the fact that he traded Bo Bergdahl for 5 Taliban detainees, and now we're going to talk about it yet again.
All right, to you then, the same thing, John. Do you think it's the right thing to do?
And I do. I agree. I think anytime a member of the armed forces abandons their post, you don't have any choice but to take that action.
Real quick, and I got one last thing I want to put in here. Republicans are always complaining about how Barack Obama was a freshman senator. Marco Rubio is a freshman senator running for the White House, which seems kind of ironic at this point. John, 15 seconds to you. Is Marco Rubio that different from Barack Obama? Because he seems to be taking pages out of Obama's playbook.
Well, he's different because he has a much better worldview and understanding of our place in the world. He has a much better grasp of foreign policy and domestic policy, so he's very different from Barack Obama.
Pete, would you agree with that? Because that does seem to set Marco Rubio apart.
100% agree. It's night and day between Barack Obama and Marco Rubio and what they bring to the table.
There you go. Now we'll wait and see what happens in the debate, and we'll gather again. And we won't talk about George W. Bush running again, no matter what Pete says. Pete Seat, John Hart, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. Now, about that debate, be sure to join us for the Newsmax post-debate special. Tuesday night, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. We'll join everybody together here. We'll start before the other networks begin, and we'll tell you exactly what was said and why it was said post-debate. Join us and stay right here. The Hardline continues.